the billion-dollar longevity secret nobody talks about. Imagine meeting two men who are both 100 years old. The first man is lying in a hospital bed. His body is weak. His memory is fading. Every movement is difficult. The second man is walking up a hillside. He still grows vegetables in his garden. He cooks his own meals. He laughs with friends. He wakes up every morning with plans for tomorrow. Both men have lived for a century, but only one of them is truly alive. Now here's the strange part. The healthier man did not discover a miracle drug. He did not undergo futuristic gene therapy. He did not spend thousands of dollars every month on anti-aging supplements. He did not follow the latest longevity trend on social media. Instead, he simply lived in a place where reaching 100 years old is not considered extraordinary, a place where healthy aging seems almost normal, a place known as a blue zone. And today, we are going to uncover what the world's longest-lived people have known for generations. By the end of this video, you will understand why some people remain active, independent, and mentally sharp far beyond the age most of us expect. More importantly, you will discover how many of these habits can be applied to your own life, regardless of where you live. Because the greatest surprise of all may be this: the secret to a long life is probably much simpler than you think. Before we begin, I want to ask for a small favor. If you enjoy deep health and science documentaries like this one, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We are still a growing channel, and your support truly helps us continue creating long-form educational content that takes hundreds of hours to research and produce. Thank you for being here. Now let's begin our journey. For decades, the world has been obsessed with a single question: how do we live longer? Entire industries have been built around that question. Every year, billions of dollars are spent on anti-aging products. Scientists search for longevity genes. Companies promise revolutionary breakthroughs. Influencers advertise supplements that claim to slow aging. Books promise secret formulas. Experts debate the latest diets. And yet, despite all of this effort, many people still spend the final years of their lives battling chronic disease, declining mobility, loneliness, and loss of independence. Maybe we have been asking the wrong question. Maybe the goal is not simply to live longer. Maybe the real goal is to live better, to remain healthy, to remain capable, to remain curious, to remain connected, to remain fully alive. This distinction is important because lifespan and healthspan are not the same thing. Lifespan is the total number of years you live. Healthspan is the number of years you remain healthy and functional. Imagine two people who both reach 100 years old. One spends the final 20 years struggling with disease. The other spends those same years walking, gardening, socializing, learning, and contributing to their community. Their lifespans are identical, but their lives are completely different. The people living in blue zones seem to have discovered something remarkable. They have found ways not only to extend lifespan, but also to extend healthspan, and they often do it without trying. That may sound impossible, but evidence from around the world suggests otherwise. Researchers studying these communities repeatedly found individuals who remained active well into their 90s and beyond. People who still worked, people who still climbed hills, people who still prepared meals, people who still had a reason to wake up every morning. What makes this even more fascinating is that these communities are separated by thousands of miles. Different languages, different cultures, different religions, different climates, different histories, and yet they seem to share striking similarities. At first glance, their lifestyles do not appear extraordinary. They are not elite athletes. They are not biohackers. They are not constantly measuring biomarkers or tracking every calorie. Most of them have never heard the term biohacking. Many of them have never stepped inside a gym, and yet they consistently outperform modern populations when it comes to healthy aging. Why? What do they know that the rest of the world has forgotten? That question launched one of the most fascinating investigations in modern health science. Researchers began noticing unusual patterns in certain regions. Some communities appeared to have far more centenarians than statistical models predicted. Initially, many scientists were skeptical. Perhaps the birth records were inaccurate. Perhaps the ages were exaggerated. Perhaps the numbers were misleading. But as investigations continued, the evidence became harder to ignore. These people were real, their ages were verified, and many were thriving. As researchers dug deeper, they discovered something unexpected. The answer was not hidden in a single food, not a vitamin, not a supplement, not a miracle exercise, not a secret medical procedure. The answer appeared to be woven into everyday life itself, into how people moved, how they ate, how they worked, how they rested, how they connected with others, how they found meaning, and how they structured their environment. In other words, longevity was not a product, it was a lifestyle. Think about that for a moment. What if the greatest health intervention is not something you buy? What if it is something you build? What if the most powerful anti-aging strategy begins with ordinary choices repeated every day for decades? That possibility changes everything, because it means longevity may be more accessible than we think. You do not need a laboratory. You do not need cutting-edge technology. You do not need unlimited wealth. You need knowledge, and you need consistency. Throughout this series, we are going to travel across the world. We will visit remote mountain villages, peaceful islands, close-knit communities, places where aging follows a different script. Along the way, we will examine the science behind their habits. We will separate myth from evidence. We will challenge popular assumptions, and we will uncover lessons that can be applied in modern life. Some of these discoveries may surprise you. Others may completely overturn what you thought you knew about healthy aging. For example, what if intense exercise is not the primary reason these people live so long? What if eating until you are completely full is quietly accelerating aging? What if your social circle influences your lifespan more than you realize? What if purpose itself acts like a form of medicine? And what if the biggest longevity secret has nothing to do with medicine at all? As we move through this journey, I want you to think about your own life. Not with guilt, not with fear, but with curiosity. Which of your daily habits are helping you build a longer, healthier future? Which habits are quietly working against you? And if you could borrow just one lesson from the world's longest-lived people, which lesson would you choose? I would love to hear your thoughts. As you listen, share your answer in the comments below. What do you believe is the most important ingredient for a long and healthy life? Is it food, exercise, family, purpose, faith, friendship, or something else entirely? In the next chapter, we begin the extraordinary story of how researchers searched the globe for communities that seem to challenge the normal rules of aging. A journey that led to 5 remarkable places, 5 cultures, 5 different ways of life, and one astonishing discovery that connects them all. The hunt for the people who refuse to die begins now. Part 1. The hunt for the people who refuse to die. The story begins with a question, not a medical question, not a scientific question, a human question. Why do some people seem to age so differently from everyone else? For most of modern history, growing old was viewed as a slow and inevitable decline. Energy fades, strength disappears, memory weakens, the body gradually breaks down. Many people simply accepted this as the natural order of life. But scattered across the world, there were individuals who did not seem to follow that script. Men and women reaching 100 years of age, not merely surviving, thriving, walking, working, laughing, gardening, cooking, climbing hills, living independently, and perhaps most astonishing of all, still looking forward to tomorrow. For years, these stories were treated as curiosities, interesting anecdotes, rare exceptions, nothing more. But eventually, a handful of scientists began noticing something unusual. The exceptions were not randomly distributed. They seemed to cluster in specific locations. Certain communities appeared to produce extraordinarily high numbers of healthy centenarians, far more than statistics predicted, far more than chance could easily explain. This observation would eventually trigger one of the most fascinating investigations in modern longevity science. At the center of that story was a man named Whitner, an explorer, researcher, and writer who became fascinated by a simple but powerful idea. Instead of studying disease, why not study health? Instead of focusing on how people die, why not investigate how some people manage to live remarkably long and healthy lives? With support from National Geographic and a team of researchers, demographers, medical experts, and data analysts, Whitner set out on a global search. The mission was straightforward in theory. Find the places where people live the longest, then figure out why. But in practice, the task was extraordinarily difficult. Claims about extreme age are surprisingly common around the world. Many cultures celebrate elders. Many families proudly tell stories about grandparents who supposedly lived to impossible ages. The problem is that stories are not evidence. Researchers needed proof: birth certificates, church records, government documents, independent verification. The team spent years examining demographic data from dozens of countries. They compared mortality statistics, they investigated age records, they searched for regions where exceptional longevity could be confirmed scientifically. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. There appeared to be a handful of places where people consistently lived longer than expected. Not just a few individuals, entire communities, entire populations, entire cultures. Places where reaching 100 years old seemed almost normal. The search eventually led them to a rugged mountainous region on the Mediterranean island of Sardinia. At first glance, Sardinia did not appear extraordinary. There were no futuristic hospitals, no revolutionary medical technologies, no billion-dollar anti-aging clinics, no secret laboratories hidden in the mountains. Just villages, families, farmers, shepherds, people living simple lives, much as their ancestors had done for generations. Yet the numbers were astonishing. Researchers found one of the highest concentrations of male centenarians ever documented. Men who had spent decades walking steep mountain paths, men who remained active deep into old age, men who challenged nearly everything modern society believed about aging. As the investigation continued, something symbolic happened. On a map, researchers began marking regions associated with unusual longevity. One area in Sardinia stood out so clearly that it was circled with a blue marker pen. That simple blue circle would eventually inspire a term now known around the world: blue zones. It was never intended to become a global movement. It started as a practical notation, a blue circle on a map, a visual marker highlighting a geographic anomaly. But over time, the name stuck, and as additional regions were identified, the concept expanded. Blue zones became a way of describing places where exceptional longevity appeared to flourish naturally. Yet the discovery of these regions only deepened the mystery, because the obvious explanations did not seem to fit. Most people assumed genetics must be responsible. After all, longevity often runs in families. If someone lives to 100, surely they inherited extraordinary genes. That assumption sounds reasonable, and to some extent, it is true. Genes do matter, but not nearly as much as most people think. This realization became one of the most surprising discoveries of the entire investigation. When researchers compared identical twins, family histories, and large population datasets, a consistent pattern emerged. Genetics appeared to account for only about 20 to 25% of longevity. The remaining 75 to 80% was influenced by something else: lifestyle, environment, daily habits, social relationships, stress levels, purpose, community, food, movement, sleep. In other words, the majority of how long and how well we live is shaped not by what we inherit, but by how we live. That finding completely changes the conversation, because genes are largely beyond our control. But lifestyle is not. Imagine two people born with similar genetic potential. One spends decades smoking, eating highly processed food, remaining sedentary, experiencing chronic stress, and living in social isolation. The other spends decades moving naturally, eating nutrient-rich foods, maintaining close relationships, finding purpose, and participating in a supportive community. Even if they share similar genes, their outcomes can be dramatically different. The people of the blue zone seem to demonstrate this principle on a massive scale. Their environments naturally encouraged behaviors that promoted health, not through strict discipline, not through constant self-control, but through culture. Their daily lives were structured differently. Their neighborhoods were different. Their expectations were different. Their routines were different. And over decades, those differences accumulated. Modern society often encourages the opposite. We engineer convenience into every corner of life. We sit for hours. We drive everywhere. We eat quickly. We sleep less. We spend more time looking at screens than looking at people. Then we wonder why chronic disease continues to rise. The blue zones offered a glimpse into another possibility, a different blueprint for aging, one that emerged organically over generations. As researchers continued traveling from region to region, they encountered more puzzles. How could people with very different diets achieve similar longevity? How could individuals from different religions, different climates, and different cultures produce comparable outcomes? What common thread connected them all? The answer was not immediately obvious. In fact, it took years of observation to identify the patterns, because the secret was not hidden in a single habit. It was hidden in an entire way of life. Think about the anti-aging industry for a moment. Many products promise dramatic results. One supplement, one exercise, one treatment, one breakthrough, one miracle solution. But the blue zones told a different story. There was no miracle. There was no single magic bullet. Instead, longevity appeared to emerge from dozens of small factors working together: a lifestyle ecosystem, a network of habits reinforcing one another. Movement supported health, health supported activity, activity supported social connection reduced stress improved sleep, better sleep improved overall resilience. Everything was connected. And perhaps that is why the lesson remained hidden for so long. Human beings love simple answers, but longevity is not simple. It is cumulative. It is environmental. It is cultural. It is deeply intertwined with how we choose to live every day. As the evidence accumulated, the researchers became increasingly convinced that they had discovered something extraordinary, not a secret formula, something more valuable, a set of principles that appeared repeatedly across multiple blue zones, principles that transcended geography, principles that anyone could potentially apply. But before they could understand those principles, they needed to understand the places themselves. Who were these people? Where did they live? How did they spend their days? What made their communities different? And why did the same patterns appear again and again across continents separated by thousands of miles? Those questions would lead researchers from Mediterranean mountains to Japanese islands, from Costa Rican peninsulas to Greek villages, from faith-centered communities in America to some of the most remarkable populations on Earth. 5 regions, 5 cultures, 5 different stories. Yet somehow, one shared blueprint. And in the next chapter, we will begin that journey. We will travel to the 5 islands of time, places where aging seems to slow down, places where centenarians are not rare exceptions, places where the future of healthy aging may already be hiding in plain sight. Because if genes explain only a small part of the story, what exactly are these communities doing differently? And what are the lessons they can teach the rest of us about living not only longer, but better? Number Part 2, 5 Islands of Time. Imagine stepping into a machine that could carry you decades into the future. Not a machine made of steel and circuits, not a futuristic invention from a science fiction film, but a place, a community, a way of life. A place where people routinely reach ages that most of us associate with rare exceptions. A place where growing old does not necessarily mean becoming weak, where 90 years old can still mean gardening, where 100 years old can still mean walking to visit friends. As researchers continued their search for the world's healthiest long-lived populations, they discovered something remarkable. The phenomenon was not limited to a single country. It was not confined to one culture. Instead, it appeared in several distant corners of the world, places separated by oceans, different languages, different religions, different histories, yet somehow connected by an invisible thread. Today, we are going to visit those places. Think of this chapter as a journey across 5 islands of time, 5 locations where aging seems to follow a different path, 5 living laboratories that may hold some of humanity's greatest lessons about longevity. Our first stop takes us to the rugged mountains of Sardinia. The Mediterranean sun hangs above rocky hills. Ancient stone villages cling to the landscape. Narrow roads wind through valleys where generations of families have lived for centuries. At first glance, nothing appears extraordinary. Yet this region has attracted worldwide attention for a simple reason. The men here live extraordinarily long lives. In many countries, women significantly outlive men. But Sardinia challenged that pattern. Researchers discovered one of the highest concentrations of male centenarians ever documented. What made this even more fascinating was the lifestyle of many of these men. For decades, they worked as shepherds. Every day involved movement, not structured exercise, not fitness programs, not gym memberships. Their work required them to walk long distances through steep mountain terrain, sometimes several miles before breakfast, sometimes climbing hills that would leave younger people breathless. Year after year, decade after decade, the mountains became their training ground. Without realizing it, they spent their lives performing one of the most powerful forms of exercise known to science. Low-intensity movement repeated consistently over time. But movement alone was not the whole story. The Sardinian lifestyle also revolved around family. Meals were shared, stories were passed down, elders were respected. The oldest members of society remained connected rather than isolated. And perhaps that social fabric played a role just as important as physical activity. Now, let us travel thousands of miles east across the world. Our next destination is Okinawa, a chain of subtropical islands surrounded by turquoise waters. For decades, Okinawa fascinated scientists because of its remarkable population of long-lived women. Many researchers referred to Okinawan women as some of the longest-lived people on Earth. But longevity was only part of the story. What truly captured attention was the quality of those years. Many older Okinawans remained socially active, physically capable, mentally engaged, curious about life. There is a phrase deeply woven into Okinawan culture, a word that has become famous around the world. Ikigai. There is no perfect English translation, but it can be understood as a reason for being, a reason to wake up in the morning, a reason to keep moving forward. For many Okinawans, life does not stop after retirement. Purpose does not disappear with age. In fact, purpose often becomes stronger. A grandmother may care for grandchildren. A neighbor may maintain a community garden. An elder may pass traditional knowledge to younger generations. Every day still has meaning. Every day still has value. Imagine reaching 95 years old and still believing that tomorrow matters. Still having goals. Still having responsibilities. Still feeling needed. That mindset alone may be one of the most powerful medicines ever discovered. Let me ask you something. If someone woke you up tomorrow morning and asked why you get out of bed each day, what would your answer be? Take a moment to think about it. And if a reason comes to mind, share it in the comments. You might inspire someone else who is searching for their own sense of purpose. Now we continue our journey, this time to Central America, to a sun-drenched peninsula in Costa Rica known as Nicoya. Life here moves at a different pace. The landscape is filled with forests, farms, and small communities. The people of Nicoya have a fascinating attitude toward aging. Many do not fear getting older. In fact, growing old is often viewed as a privilege rather than a burden. Researchers found that older adults in Nicoya frequently maintain strong social roles within their families and communities. They continue contributing, they continue participating, they continue belonging. One local concept closely associated with Nicoya is called plan de vida. Like Ikigai, it refers to having a reason to live, a sense of purpose, a reason to keep going. Again and again, researchers encountered the same theme. People who knew why they wanted to wake up tomorrow. People whose lives remained meaningful long after conventional retirement age. Another fascinating observation emerged from Nicoya. Many residents spend significant time outdoors, sunlight, physical activity, community interaction, simple routines repeated daily, nothing extreme, nothing revolutionary. Yet somehow these habits combine to create remarkable outcomes. As we continue our journey, we arrive at one of the most mysterious blue zones of all, the Greek island of Ikaria. Some researchers jokingly describe Ikaria as the island where people forget to die. Of course, everyone dies eventually, but the phrase reflects something very real. People in Ikaria often reach advanced ages while avoiding many of the chronic diseases common elsewhere. Perhaps even more intriguing is the unusually low prevalence of dementia observed among older residents. Scientists have spent years trying to understand why. Part of the answer may lie in the rhythm of daily life. Life in Ikaria rarely follows the rigid schedules common in modern cities. People move more slowly, meals take longer, conversations stretch into the evening, social gatherings remain central to daily life. And then there is the famous afternoon nap. Many Ikarians embrace regular daytime rest, a brief period of recovery built into the structure of life itself. In much of the modern world, rest is often viewed as laziness. In Ikaria, it is simply part of living well. Picture an evening in a small Greek village. The sun begins to set. Families gather outdoors. Neighbors stop by. Conversations continue for hours. Nobody seems to be rushing. Nobody appears obsessed with productivity. Instead, there is a feeling of presence, a feeling that life is happening right now. Not tomorrow, not next year, now. Could that slower pace protect the mind and body from chronic stress? Many researchers believe it may. Finally, our journey takes us to an unexpected location. Not a remote island, not a mountain village, not an isolated peninsula, but a suburban community in California, Loma Linda. Among all the blue zones, Loma Linda stands apart. Its residents live within one of the world's most industrialized nations. They are surrounded by the same technology, infrastructure, and conveniences available to millions of Americans. Yet they consistently outlive the average American by roughly a decade. How? A large part of the answer appears connected to the lifestyle practices of the Seventh-day Adventist community. Many Adventists follow plant-focused diets. Many avoid smoking and alcohol. Many prioritize family and community. Many observe a weekly day of rest. For 24 hours each week, work slows down. Stress decreases. Attention shifts toward faith, family, friendship, and reflection. Think about that for a moment. In a culture constantly encouraging more productivity, more consumption, and more stimulation, an entire community has built regular rest directly into its lifestyle. That weekly pause may be one of the most underrated health interventions in modern life. As researchers compared these 5 regions, they faced an extraordinary puzzle. The people did not eat exactly the same foods. They did not practice the same religion. They did not share the same language. They did not live in the same climate. They did not belong to the same culture. Yet they consistently achieved similar outcomes: long lives, healthy lives, meaningful lives. The deeper scientists looked, the clearer the pattern became. The secret was not geography, the secret was behavior. Certain principles appeared again and again: movement, purpose, connection, family, community, stress reduction, natural eating patterns, belonging, meaning. These principles surfaced in every blue zone, even when the details looked different. And that realization may be one of the most hopeful discoveries in all of longevity research, because it means you do not need to move to Sardinia. You do not need to retire to Okinawa. You do not need to relocate to Ikaria or Nicoya. You do not need to join a specific community in California. What matters is not the location. What matters is the lifestyle. 5 different places, 5 different cultures, 5 different histories, yet all pointing toward the same truth. Healthy aging is not built through a single miracle. It is built through daily choices. And in the next chapter, we will explore one of the most surprising discoveries from all 5 blue zones. A finding that challenges much of what modern society believes about exercise. Because the world's longest-lived people may have uncovered a powerful secret, one that has nothing to do with gyms, fitness trackers, or intense workout programs. The shocking truth about exercise is waiting just ahead. Part 3, the shocking truth about exercise. If you ask most people what it takes to live to 100, you would probably hear a familiar list. Join a gym, run marathons, lift weights, track your calories, count your steps, monitor your heart rate, buy the latest fitness watch, optimize every workout, push harder, train longer, do more. Modern culture has convinced us that extraordinary health requires extraordinary effort. But when researchers traveled through the blue zones, they encountered a surprising reality. The world's longest-lived people were not doing any of those things. They were not following structured exercise programs. They were not logging workouts into mobile apps. They were not tracking calories. They were not wearing smart watches. Many had never entered a fitness center in their lives, and yet they consistently maintained healthy body weights, strong muscles, good mobility, healthy hearts, and remarkable independence well into old age. How was that possible? The answer begins with one of the most important concepts ever discovered in longevity research: move naturally. At first, the phrase sounds almost too simple. Move naturally, but hidden inside those 2 words is a completely different way of thinking about physical activity. Most modern exercise is something we schedule, something we add to our day, something we force ourselves to do. For 30 minutes or 1 hour, we exercise. Then we sit for the remaining hours. The people of the blue zones rarely lived that way. Movement was not an event. movement was life. Physical activity was woven into the structure of everyday living. They did not exercise, they simply never stopped moving. Let's return to Sardinia. Imagine the life of a traditional shepherd. Long before sunrise, he begins his day. The mountains are waiting, the sheep are waiting. There are steep hills to climb, rocky paths to cross, miles of terrain to cover, not for a week, not for a fitness challenge, not for a social media post, for decades, day after day, year after year. A Sardinian shepherd might walk thousands upon thousands of steps before lunch. He may climb slopes that continuously challenge his cardiovascular system. His body adapts naturally, his muscles stay active, his balance remains sharp, his joints continue moving. The remarkable thing is that he never thinks of this as exercise. It is simply part of life. Modern fitness experts often discuss consistency as the key to success. These shepherds achieved consistency without trying. Their environment demanded movement. Now let's travel back to Okinawa. The physical activity here looks very different. You will not find shepherds climbing mountains. Instead, you find older adults living in homes designed around traditional customs. For generations, many Okinawans sat on floor mats rather than chairs. Think about what that means. Every time they eat, they sit down on the floor. Every time they stand up, they perform what is essentially a bodyweight squat, again and again and again, dozens of times every day. Imagine performing that movement for 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, without ever thinking about it as exercise. The result is remarkable. Many older Okinawans maintain impressive lower body strength and mobility, strength that becomes essential for preventing falls later in life. One of the greatest threats to healthy aging is not disease alone, it is loss of mobility, the inability to move independently, the inability to get up from the floor, the inability to maintain balance. The Okinawan lifestyle quietly trains these abilities every single day. Now let's continue our journey to Ikaria. If Sardinia teaches us about walking, and Okinawa teaches us about mobility, Ikaria teaches us about purposeful movement. Many residents continue gardening well into their 80s and 90s. Picture a 90-year-old tending vegetables, digging soil, carrying tools, watering plants, bending, stretching, walking, lifting, repeating these movements throughout the day. This is not high-intensity exercise, but it is constant, and perhaps more importantly, it has meaning. The garden provides food. The garden creates purpose. The garden encourages activity. The garden connects people with nature. One activity delivers multiple benefits simultaneously. That is a recurring theme throughout the Blue Zones. The healthiest habits often accomplish several goals at once. Modern life tends to separate everything. Exercise happens at the gym, work happens at the office, food comes from a store, socializing happens online, nature becomes something we visit occasionally. In Blue Zones, these categories often overlap. Movement becomes part of work, part of community, part of daily survival, part of identity. Researchers studying longevity began noticing something important. The body does not necessarily care whether movement comes from a treadmill or from carrying groceries. The body simply responds to movement. Blood circulation improves. Muscles activate. Blood sugar regulation improves. Inflammation decreases. Metabolism remains engaged. The human body evolved in a world where movement was constant, not extreme, constant. This realization has inspired an entirely new area of modern research. Scientists now study something called intermittent movement, small bursts of physical activity spread throughout the day, standing, walking, climbing stairs, stretching, carrying objects, changing positions frequently. Research increasingly suggests that these repeated movement patterns may provide enormous health benefits. In fact, some scientists argue that prolonged sitting may be one of the greatest health threats of modern life. Think about the average day. Wake up, sit for breakfast, sit in a car, sit at a desk, sit for lunch, sit during meetings, sit during the commute home, sit on the couch, then go to bed. The human body was never designed for this. Our ancestors spent thousands of generations moving throughout the day. The Blue Zones preserve aspects of that ancient pattern, and perhaps that helps explain their extraordinary outcomes. Let me ask you a question. How many hours do you spend sitting each day? Be honest. Not because you should feel guilty, but because awareness is the first step toward change. If you know your answer, share it in the comments. You may be surprised how many others are facing the same challenge. Now here's where things become truly interesting. The people of the blue zones do not rely on motivation. Motivation is unreliable. Some days you have it, some days you do not. Instead, they rely on environment. Their surroundings naturally encourage movement. This is one of the most powerful lessons from longevity science. Environment often beats willpower. Consider two different homes. In the first home, everything is designed for convenience. The remote control is always nearby. The elevator is easier than the stairs. The car is parked directly outside. Food is delivered. Movement becomes optional. In the second home, movement happens automatically. The stairs are used regularly. The garden requires attention. The mailbox is a short walk away. The kitchen encourages cooking. Daily life creates opportunities for activity. Which environment is more likely to produce long-term movement? The answer is obvious. And that brings us to one of the most practical lessons from the blue zones. Do not focus only on changing yourself. Change your environment. Design your surroundings so that movement becomes the default option. Make laziness slightly more difficult. Make movement slightly easier. The effects accumulate over time. Here is a simple action plan inspired by Blue Zone principles. First, place frequently used items farther away. Do not keep everything within arm's reach. Create reasons to stand up. Create reasons to walk. Second, use stairs whenever possible. Not because stairs are magical, because they naturally add movement to daily life. Third, schedule walking conversations. Instead of sitting during every phone call, walk while talking. Fourth, spend more time doing activities that require light movement. Gardening, cleaning, cooking, home projects. These may not look like exercise, but they keep the body active. Fifth, interrupt long periods of sitting. Stand up regularly, stretch, walk around the room. Even brief movement can make a difference. The goal is not perfection. The goal is frequency. Remember, the people of the blue zones are not fitness fanatics. They are movement specialists, not because they train for it, because their lifestyles naturally encouraged it. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. The healthiest movement is often the movement you do not have to force yourself to do. The movement that becomes part of everyday life. The movement that continues for decades. The movement that feels natural. As researchers looked across all 5 blue zones, they kept seeing the same pattern. Movement was everywhere. Not concentrated into one intense hour, spread across an entire day, an entire week, an entire lifetime. And this discovery leads us directly to another fascinating secret from the world's longest-lived populations. Because movement alone does not explain their extraordinary health. There is another habit that appears in nearly every blue zone, a habit so simple that many people overlook it completely. It begins with a phrase spoken by generations of Okinawans before meals, a phrase that may quietly protect them from one of the biggest health problems of the modern world. The battle with the second plate is about to begin. Never Part 4, the battle with the second plate. Imagine sitting down to dinner after a long day. The food smells wonderful. Your favorite dish is on the table. You begin eating. The first few bites are satisfying. The next few bites are even better. Soon your plate is empty. But there is still food left. And then comes the moment that almost everyone recognizes. The second plate. You are no longer truly hungry, yet you continue eating. Not because your body needs more fuel, because the food is there, because it tastes good, because everyone else is still eating, because stopping feels strangely difficult. For millions of people around the world, this small moment happens every day. And over the course of years, those extra bites can quietly shape the future of our health. When researchers began studying the eating habits of the world's longest-lived populations, they expected to find unusual foods, exotic ingredients, rare plants, hidden nutritional secrets. Instead, they discovered something surprisingly simple. One of the most powerful longevity habits had less to do with what people ate and more to do with when they stopped eating. To understand this lesson, we must return to Okinawa. Among the older generations of Okinawans, there is a traditional phrase that has been repeated for centuries. A phrase spoken before meals. A phrase so simple that it can be expressed in just a few words. Harahachibu. Translated roughly into English, it means, eat until you are 80% full. Not 70, not 100, 80. At first glance, the idea sounds almost trivial. How much difference could 20% really make? As it turns out, quite a lot. The concept challenges one of the strongest instincts in modern eating culture. Most people stop eating when they feel full. The Okinawan approach is different. They stop eating before fullness arrives. And that distinction may be one of the most important lessons in all of longevity science. To understand why, we need to look inside the body, because hunger is not as simple as it feels. Most people imagine hunger as a direct signal. The stomach becomes empty. The brain receives the message, we eat, problem solved. But the reality is far more complex. Our bodies operate through a sophisticated network of hormones and communication systems. Among the most important players are two hormones called ghrelin and leptin. Think of ghrelin as the hunger messenger. When your stomach is relatively empty, ghrelin levels rise. The brain receives the signal. You begin to feel hungry. Your attention shifts toward food. Finding something to eat becomes a priority. From an evolutionary perspective, this system helped our ancestors survive. Without hunger signals, people might forget to eat. And in a world where food was scarce, that could be dangerous. But hunger is only half of the story. The body also needs a way to tell us when enough food has been consumed. That is where leptin enters the picture. Leptin helps communicate satiety. It helps inform the brain that energy needs are being met, that the body has received sufficient fuel, that it may be time to stop eating. The problem is that this communication system is not instantaneous. The body operates with a delay, and that delay changes everything. Researchers estimate that it can take approximately 20 minutes for the brain to fully process signals indicating that enough food has been consumed. Think about that for a moment. Your stomach and digestive system may already have received sufficient food, but your conscious awareness has not caught up yet. The message is still traveling. The brain has not fully updated the status report, and during those 20 minutes, many people continue eating. This creates a fascinating problem. If you eat very quickly, you can consume a tremendous amount of extra food before your brain realizes what has happened. By the time fullness arrives, you may already be far beyond your actual needs. Have you ever finished a meal and thought, I could probably eat more? Then 20 minutes later felt completely stuffed? If so, you have experienced this delay firsthand. The Okinawan principle of harahachi-bu appears to work with the body's biology rather than against it. Instead of waiting for the sensation of fullness, people learn to recognize the moment when hunger begins to disappear. That moment is subtle, but it matters, because there is a huge difference between these two states. No longer hungry, completely full. Modern culture often treats them as the same thing. They are not. One represents sufficiency. The other often represents excess. And over a lifetime, that difference can become enormous. Now let's step back and consider the environment in which our ancestors evolved. For most of human history, food was uncertain. Calories were valuable. Periods of abundance were often followed by periods of scarcity. Under those conditions, overeating occasionally made sense. The body evolved mechanisms encouraging us to take advantage of available food. The problem is that modern environments are completely different. For many people, food is available everywhere. Large portions, constant snacks, sugary drinks, processed foods designed to be irresistible, marketing campaigns encouraging continuous consumption. The biological systems that once protected us now face challenges they were never designed to handle. Our brains are ancient. Our food environment is not. This mismatch helps explain why overeating has become so common. We are surrounded by cues that encourage us to continue eating long after our nutritional needs have been met. Larger plates, larger portions, all-you-can-eat buffets, television during meals, smartphones during meals, mindless snacking while working, mindless snacking while driving, mindless snacking while watching entertainment. Many people no longer eat food. They eat distractions. And when attention disappears, awareness often disappears with it. The people of Okinawa traditionally approached meals differently. Eating was slower, more deliberate, more mindful. Meals were often social experiences, not rushed experiences. This slower pace naturally gives the body's signaling systems time to function properly. The brain catches up, satiety signals arrive, the need for excess food decreases. Let me ask you something. How often do you finish a meal feeling genuinely comfortable? Not stuffed, Not uncomfortable, not regretful, just satisfied. Think about your last few meals. Were you paying attention or were you multitasking? Share your experience in the comments. You may discover that many others are facing the exact same challenge. Another fascinating aspect of Harahachi-bu involves something researchers call caloric moderation. Scientists studying aging have repeatedly observed an intriguing pattern across multiple species. Moderate reductions in calorie intake, while still maintaining proper nutrition, are often associated with improvements in markers linked to longevity. Now, this does not mean starvation, it does not mean extreme dieting, and it certainly does not mean chronic hunger. The lesson is much simpler. The body may function more efficiently when it is not constantly overloaded. Think of a machine. If it operates continuously at maximum capacity, wear and tear accumulate faster. The human body is obviously far more complex than a machine, but similar principles may apply. Constant excess energy intake places demands on multiple systems. Blood sugar regulation, insulin production, digestive processes, fat storage mechanisms, inflammatory pathways. Over time, the burden adds up. The Okinawan approach creates a natural buffer, a small gap between what the body needs and what the body could consume. That gap may help explain part of their remarkable health outcomes. But perhaps the most important lesson is psychological. The people of Okinawa do not view restraint as punishment. They do not obsess over calories. They do not spend every meal feeling deprived. Instead, moderation is simply part of the culture, part of the rhythm of life, part of their relationship with food. Food is appreciated, enjoyed, celebrated, but not overconsumed. That distinction matters because sustainable habits are rarely built through suffering. They are built through identity, through culture, through daily practice, through repetition. The goal is not to leave every meal hungry. The goal is to leave every meal comfortably satisfied, to stop when hunger disappears, not when discomfort begins. To recognize that the body often needs less than the modern world encourages us to consume. And perhaps that is the hidden wisdom behind Harahachi-bu. A simple phrase, a simple habit, repeated across decades, quietly protecting health one meal at a time. But stopping at 80% full is only part of the nutritional story, because researchers soon discovered another astonishing pattern shared across nearly every blue zone. A dietary habit so common that it appeared again and again on different continents. Not a supplement, not a superfood marketed by influencers, not an expensive health product, something far more ordinary. A humble food that many people overlook every day, and yet it appears on the tables of some of the longest-lived people on Earth. The most important food you may not be eating enough of is waiting in the next chapter. Part 5, the most important food that millions of people have forgotten. If you walk through a modern supermarket, you might think the secret to longevity is hidden somewhere between the supplement aisle and the refrigerated health food section. Everywhere you look, there are promises. Anti-aging powders, collagen drinks, longevity capsules, superfood extracts, advanced nutrition formulas, products claiming to unlock youth itself. The message is clear. Health is complicated. Health is expensive. Health requires special products. But when researchers examined the eating habits of the world's longest-lived populations, they found something surprising. The most important food appeared again and again. Not in one blue zone, not in two, in all of them. And it was not salmon, it was not collagen, it was not a miracle supplement, it was not a trendy health product, it was beans. Simple, ordinary, unfashionable. Beans. The discovery seemed almost disappointing at first. After all, people expect extraordinary secrets, not foods that have existed for thousands of years. Yet the evidence kept pointing in the same direction. Whether researchers were studying Sardinia, Okinawa, Nicoya, Ikaria, or Loma Linda, beans consistently appeared near the center of the diet. Different cultures, different recipes, different traditions, the same food, again and again. Black beans, lentils, chickpeas, soybeans, fava beans, white beans, dozens of varieties, one common pattern. The people who lived the longest were eating them regularly. This raises an obvious question. Why? What makes beans so special? The answer begins with one of the greatest nutritional challenges of modern life. Many people consume too much energy and too little nutrition. Plenty of calories, not enough fiber, not enough micronutrients, not enough plant diversity, not enough support for the trillions of organisms living inside the digestive system. Beans help solve many of these problems simultaneously. They contain plant protein, complex carbohydrates, minerals, vitamins, antioxidants, and perhaps most importantly, fiber. Lots of fiber. Fiber may not sound exciting. It is rarely featured in advertisements. Nobody becomes a social media celebrity by promoting fiber. Yet some scientists now believe fiber is one of the most powerful longevity nutrients available. To understand why, we need to explore a hidden world inside your body, a world that scientists are only beginning to fully understand. The gut microbiome. Inside your digestive tract live trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, other microscopic life forms. Together, they create an ecosystem more complex than many forests. In fact, there are roughly as many microbial cells in your body as human cells. You are not just a human being. You are an entire biological community, and that community depends on food. The microorganisms living in your gut need nourishment just as much as you do. One of their favorite foods is fiber. When beneficial bacteria consume fiber, they produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids. These compounds appear to support multiple aspects of health: inflammation regulation, metabolic health, immune function, gut integrity, even brain health. Researchers continue uncovering connections between the microbiome and nearly every major system in the body. The more we learn, the more important this hidden ecosystem appears to be. And beans happen to be one of its favorite foods. Think about that for a moment. When you eat a serving of beans, you are not just feeding yourself. You are feeding trillions of microscopic partners that help keep your body functioning. Perhaps one reason beans appear in every blue zone is because they quietly support this invisible ecosystem year after year, decade after decade. Now let's look at some specific examples. Black beans are especially common throughout parts of Central America. Rich in fiber and plant compounds, they have been a staple food for generations. In Nicoya, black beans often appear alongside corn and squash, creating simple but nutritionally powerful meals. Then there are lentils, a favorite throughout Mediterranean regions. Lentils are packed with nutrients and require relatively little processing. For centuries, they have provided affordable nourishment to entire populations. Chickpeas are another longevity staple. Found throughout many traditional cuisines, they offer protein, fiber, and remarkable versatility. They can be used in soups, stews, salads, spreads, main dishes, and snacks. Then we have soybeans, perhaps the most famous bean in East Asia. In Okinawa, soy appears in forms such as tofu, miso, and other traditional foods. These foods have nourished communities for generations, long before anyone used the phrase superfood. One of the most fascinating aspects of beans is their efficiency. They provide substantial nutrition without excessive calories. They promote satiety, they support blood sugar regulation, and they pair naturally with vegetables, grains, and other plant foods. In many ways, beans represent the perfect longevity food, not because they are magical, because they are practical, reliable, accessible, sustainable. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time beans were the main feature of one of your meals? Not a small side dish, not an afterthought, the centerpiece. Think about your answer, then share it in the comments. You may discover that many people have unintentionally pushed one of the world's healthiest foods to the edge of their diets. As researchers continued studying blue zones, they noticed another major pattern. Beans were important, but they were part of something larger, a broader nutritional philosophy. A philosophy now often called plant slant. The name is simple. The idea is even simpler. Most calories come from plants. Not all, most. Across blue zones, approximately 90 to 95% of traditional diets originate from plant sources. Vegetables, beans, whole grains, fruits, nuts, seeds, herbs, legumes, animal products are not necessarily absent, but they occupy a much smaller role. Meat often appears as a side ingredient rather than the centerpiece of the meal. This is an important distinction. The Blue Zone approach is not about strict dietary rules. It is not about perfection, it is about proportion. The overall pattern matters more than any individual meal, and that should feel encouraging, because it means you do not need to completely transform your life overnight. Small shifts can create meaningful changes, especially when sustained for years. Now let's bring this idea into an American context. Imagine a typical dinner plate. Many meals place animal protein at the center. Large portions of meat dominate the plate. Vegetables become side dishes. Beans may not appear at all. A plant slant approach reverses that balance. The vegetables become larger, the beans become more prominent. Whole grains take on a supporting role. Animal products become smaller accents rather than the primary focus. For example, instead of a large steak with a small side of vegetables, imagine a hearty bowl built around beans, vegetables, and whole grains, with a smaller portion of meat if desired. Instead of processed snacks, consider roasted chickpeas. Instead of highly refined side dishes, consider black beans or lentil soups. Instead of viewing beans as emergency food, view them as longevity food. The goal is not restriction. The goal is abundance. More plants, more colors, more fiber, more diversity, more nourishment. This way of eating does not require expensive products. It does not require complicated meal plans. It does not require nutritional obsession. It simply requires gradually shifting the balance of the plate. And perhaps that is why it has endured for generations. Because sustainable nutrition is rarely built on extremes. It is built on habits people can maintain for a lifetime. The people of the blue zones did not wake up each morning wondering how to optimize their diet. They simply ate foods that had supported their communities for centuries, foods that nourished both the body and the microbiome, foods that were accessible, affordable, filling, and deeply connected to culture. Beans happen to be one of those foods, not glamorous, not trendy, but remarkably effective. Yet as important as food is, researchers eventually realized that nutrition alone could not explain the extraordinary longevity of blue zone populations. There was another mystery waiting to be solved. A mystery involving something many health experts still debate today. A habit that seems contradictory at first glance. Because in several blue zones, people regularly enjoyed something that modern health culture often warns against: wine. And yet somehow many of them continued living extraordinarily long lives. Was the secret hidden in the glass? Or somewhere else entirely? That paradox is where our journey goes next. Part 6. The Wine Paradox. Among all the discoveries made in the blue zones, few have generated more debate than this one. It seems to contradict everything many people think they know about health. You discover a community filled with people who regularly live into their 90s and beyond. You examine their habits, you study their diets, you investigate their routines, and then you find something unexpected. Many of them drink wine, not occasionally, not only during holidays, regularly. In Sardinia, wine is part of daily life. In Ikaria, wine often accompanies meals and social gatherings. For many people hearing this for the first time, the reaction is immediate. Wait a second, how can that be? If alcohol is harmful, why are some of the world's longest-lived populations drinking it? And if wine is beneficial, why don't doctors simply prescribe a few glasses per day? The answer, as usual, is more complicated than either extreme. And hidden within that complexity may be one of the most important lessons in the entire Blue Zone story. Because the real secret might not be what is inside the glass. It might be who is sitting around the table. Let's begin in the mountains of Sardinia. Imagine the end of a long day. The work is finished, the animals have been tended, the sun begins to sink below the horizon. Families gather, neighbors stop by, conversations begin, food is shared, and somewhere on the table sits a bottle of deep red wine. For generations, one particular variety has attracted attention: Cannonau, a traditional Sardinian wine often associated with the region's remarkable longevity. Researchers became interested in Cannonau because of its unusually high concentration of certain plant compounds known as polyphenols. Polyphenols are naturally occurring substances found in many fruits, vegetables, herbs, teas, and wines. Scientists have spent decades studying their potential effects on human health. Some polyphenols appear to possess antioxidant properties. Others may influence inflammation, blood vessel function, or cellular health. When researchers analyzed Cannonau wine, they found levels of these compounds that were notably higher than many other wines. Naturally, headlines followed. Could the secret of Sardinian longevity be hidden inside a wine bottle? For a while, that possibility attracted significant attention. But then something interesting happened. Scientists looked closer, and the story became less straightforward. Because while wine appeared in some blue zones, It did not appear in all of them. Remember Loma Linda. Members of the Seventh-day Adventist community generally avoid alcohol entirely, yet they still achieve remarkable longevity. That fact alone creates a problem for the idea that wine itself is the primary secret. If wine were essential, Loma Linda should not exist. Yet it does, and its residents continue to thrive. This observation forced researchers to ask a deeper question. Perhaps wine is not the central factor. Perhaps it is simply one piece of a larger picture. To understand that picture, we need to travel to another blue zone. Ikaria, the Greek island often called the place where people forget to die. Life in Ikaria follows a rhythm that feels radically different from the pace of many modern cities. Meals are not rushed, conversations are not squeezed between appointments. People gather, they linger, they talk, they laugh. Hours pass. No one seems particularly concerned about efficiency. At first glance, this lifestyle may appear unproductive, but from a health perspective, it may be profoundly important, because what researchers consistently observed was not merely alcohol consumption, it was social connection. Wine happened to be present, but so were family, friendship, community, belonging. And those factors may matter far more. Think about how alcohol is often consumed in many modern settings. Someone arrives home exhausted, they sit alone, they pour a drink, the television is on, the phone is nearby. The purpose of the drink is escape, relief, temporary distraction. Now compare that with a traditional Sardinian gathering. Several generations around one table. Stories being told, food being shared, laughter echoing through the room. The wine is not the event. The people are the event. The wine is simply part of the experience. That distinction may be crucial, because one growing area of scientific research suggests that social isolation carries significant health risks. In fact, some researchers argue that chronic loneliness can be as damaging as many traditional health risk factors. Human beings evolved as social creatures. For most of our history, survival depended on belonging to a group, being connected, being supported, being needed. The brain still responds strongly to these conditions. When social bonds weaken, stress often increases. Mental health suffers. Physical health may suffer as well. Meanwhile, strong social relationships appear repeatedly among the most powerful predictors of long-term well-being. And nowhere is that pattern more visible than in the blue zones. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you shared a meal with people you genuinely enjoy being around? Not a rushed lunch, not eating while checking emails. A real meal, with conversation, with laughter, with presence. Think about that moment. And if someone special comes to mind, tell us about them in the comments. Because sometimes the healthiest part of a meal has nothing to do with nutrition. One of the most fascinating discoveries in longevity research is that social connection seems to influence health through multiple pathways simultaneously. Stress levels often decrease. Emotional resilience improves. Depression becomes less likely. People may make healthier choices when surrounded by supportive communities. Even recovery from illness can be affected by social support. Imagine facing a difficult period in life, a health challenge, a financial setback, a personal loss. Now imagine facing it completely alone. The burden feels heavier, the stress feels greater, the recovery often becomes harder. Now imagine facing the same challenge surrounded by people who care about you, people who listen, people who help, people who remind you that you matter. The situation may not change, but your ability to endure it often does. This is where the wine paradox begins to reveal its deeper meaning. Many people focus on the drink. Researchers increasingly focus on the environment surrounding the drink, the ritual, the gathering, the shared experience, the feeling of belonging, because those elements appear again and again throughout every blue zone. Even in communities where alcohol is absent, the common denominator is not wine, it is connection. This realization challenges one of the biggest assumptions of modern health culture. Many people think health is primarily an individual project, a personal responsibility, a private pursuit, something achieved through discipline and self-control. But the blue zones tell a different story. Health may also be a collective experience, something shaped by relationships, by culture, by community, by the people who surround us. Consider a simple dinner table. On one side sits a nutritious meal eaten in isolation. On the other side sits a similar meal shared with family and friends. From a nutritional standpoint, they may be nearly identical. From a human standpoint, they can feel completely different. One nourishes the body, the other nourishes both body and spirit. And perhaps that is part of what the blue zones have been teaching us all along. Longevity is not simply the absence of disease. It is the presence of connection, the presence of meaning, the presence of relationships worth investing in. As researchers dug deeper into Sardinia, Ikaria, Nicoya, Okinawa, and Loma Linda, they kept finding the same pattern. People did not merely survive together. They lived together, celebrated together, supported one another, aged together. The table became more than a place to eat. It became a place to belong. And belonging may be one of the most powerful health interventions ever discovered. The irony is that many modern societies have never been more connected technologically, yet loneliness continues to rise. We can send messages instantly across the planet, yet many people struggle to find someone to share dinner with. We can communicate constantly, yet meaningful connection often feels increasingly rare. The people of the Blue Zones remind us of something ancient, something deeply human, something that no supplement can replace. The need to gather, the need to belong, the need to feel seen. And perhaps that is why the wine paradox is so fascinating, because it initially appears to be a story about alcohol, but ultimately becomes a story about people. The glass captures our attention. The relationships deserve our attention. And that insight leads directly to the next remarkable discovery. Because when researchers asked some of the world's oldest individuals why they still woke up each morning with energy and enthusiasm, many gave answers that had nothing to do with food, nothing to do with exercise, nothing to do with medicine. Instead, they spoke about something far more powerful, a reason to get out of bed, a reason to keep going, a reason to face tomorrow. In Okinawa, they call it Ikigai, and it may be one of the closest things we have ever found to a medicine for the human soul. Now, Part 7, Ikigai, the longevity medicine for the soul. Imagine reaching 100 years old. Now imagine someone asking you a simple question. What are your plans for tomorrow? Most people would expect a centenarian to answer with a smile and say they have no plans at all. Maybe rest, maybe sit quietly, maybe simply wait for another day to pass. But in Okinawa, researchers encountered something very different. They met women who had lived for a century, women who had witnessed wars, economic crises, technological revolutions, and the transformation of the modern world. Women who had buried friends, raised children, watched grandchildren grow up, and even after 100 years, many of them still had plans for tomorrow. One planned to tend her garden, another planned to visit a friend, another planned to teach a traditional recipe to younger family members, another planned to attend a community gathering. The details varied, but the pattern remained the same. They still had a future, not a distant future, a tomorrow. And that discovery may be one of the most profound lessons ever uncovered in longevity research. Because the world's longest-lived people often possess something that many younger people struggle to find. A reason to wake up in the morning, a reason to keep moving, a reason to keep caring, a reason to keep living. In Okinawa, there is a word for this, Ikigai. Around the world, the term has become increasingly popular. Books have been written about it, seminars have been built around it, countless articles have attempted to explain it, yet its true meaning remains surprisingly difficult to translate. Ikigai is often described as a reason for being, but that definition only captures part of its essence. Ikigai is the feeling that your life still matters, that your existence still contributes something meaningful, that tomorrow still contains something worth experiencing. It does not need to be grand. It does not need to change the world. For one person, Ikigai may be caring for grandchildren. For another, it may be teaching. For another, it may be creating art. For another, it may simply be helping neighbors. The size of the purpose is not what matters. The existence of purpose is what matters. As researchers spent more time in Okinawa, they noticed something fascinating. Many older adults did not think about retirement the way people in many modern societies do. Retirement often implies stepping away from usefulness, stepping away from contribution, stepping away from responsibility. But many Okinawans never fully retire from life. They continue participating, they continue contributing, they continue belonging, even at advanced ages. And perhaps that helps explain why they remain so engaged with the world around them. Purpose creates momentum. Purpose creates direction. Purpose creates a reason to keep investing in tomorrow. Interestingly, Okinawa is not the only blue zone where this pattern appears. In Nicoya, Costa Rica, researchers discovered a similar concept. The local phrase is plan de vida, a life plan, a reason to live, a reason to continue moving forward. Different language, different culture, the same idea. People who know why they are living often seem better equipped to continue living. At first, this may sound philosophical, maybe even poetic. But modern science has begun uncovering evidence that purpose may influence health in measurable ways. Researchers studying aging populations have repeatedly found associations between a strong sense of purpose and better long-term outcomes. People with a clear sense of meaning often demonstrate lower levels of chronic stress, greater resilience during difficult times, healthier behaviors, stronger social connections, and in some studies, even lower mortality risk over time. Why might this happen? Consider what purpose does to the human mind. When life feels meaningful, setbacks become easier to endure, challenges become easier to face, recovery becomes easier to pursue. Purpose acts like a psychological compass. It does not eliminate storms, but it helps people navigate through them. Imagine two individuals facing the same obstacle, a serious illness, a financial setback, a personal loss. One feels disconnected from life. The other feels deeply connected to people, goals, and responsibilities. Who is more likely to keep fighting? Who is more likely to follow through with recovery? Who is more likely to maintain hope? The answer seems obvious. Purpose provides energy, not physical energy. Existential energy, the kind that helps people continue when circumstances become difficult. One elderly Okinawan woman was once asked why she continued waking up early every morning. Her answer was simple. There are people who expect me to show up. Think about that. Not because she had to, because she mattered, because her presence mattered, because someone would notice if she were absent. Many experts believe that one of the hidden epidemics of the modern world is not obesity, not diabetes, not heart disease, loneliness of purpose. Millions of people wake up each day without a clear answer to a basic question. Why am I doing all of this? The problem is not laziness. The problem is disconnection. Many people have become disconnected from community, disconnected from contribution, disconnected from meaning. And when meaning disappears, motivation often disappears with it. Let me ask you something. If someone asked you right now why you get out of bed each morning, what would you say? Do not worry about finding a perfect answer. Just think honestly. Is it family, a dream, a responsibility, a passion, a mission, a promise you made to yourself? Share your answer in the comments. You may be surprised how many people are asking themselves the same question. One of the reasons Ikigai has captured so much global attention is because it offers a framework for exploring purpose, a practical way to begin searching. Over time, a popular model emerged around 4 overlapping circles. While not a traditional Okinawan diagram, it has become a useful exercise for people trying to identify meaningful direction in life. Imagine 4 circles. The first circle asks, what do you love? These are the activities that naturally capture your attention, the things that make time disappear, the things you would happily do even without external rewards. The second circle asks, what are you good at? These are your strengths, your skills, your talents, the abilities that allow you to contribute value. The third circle asks, what does the world need? Not the entire world, your community, your family, your workplace, the people around you. Where can you make a difference? The fourth circle asks, what can sustain you? What creates economic stability? What helps support your life and responsibilities? When these circles begin to overlap, something interesting happens. Meaning becomes clearer. Direction becomes clearer. Purpose becomes clearer. You do not need all 4 circles to align perfectly. Life is rarely that simple, but exploring them can reveal surprising insights. For example, someone may discover they love teaching. They are good at explaining complex ideas. People around them need guidance, and they can build a career around that skill. Another person may discover a passion for helping others through healthcare, or creating art, or mentoring younger generations, or building communities. Purpose takes many forms. The important thing is not copying someone else's Ikigai. The important thing is discovering your own, because purpose cannot be borrowed, it must be lived. The centenarians of Okinawa are powerful reminders of this truth. They are not extraordinary because they possess superhuman genetics. They are extraordinary because many of them remain connected to meaning throughout their lives. Even at 90, even at 100, even beyond. They continue planting gardens, sharing stories, helping neighbors, attending gatherings, supporting family, participating in life. And that participation may be one of the greatest anti-aging tools ever discovered. Not because purpose prevents aging, nothing prevents aging, but purpose changes the experience of aging. It transforms additional years from empty time into meaningful time. And perhaps that is what longevity is really about. Not simply adding years to life, adding life to years. As researchers moved from one blue zone to another, they repeatedly encountered people who possessed this quiet sense of purpose. Yet they also noticed something else, something equally important. Purpose helps people move toward the future, but there is another force constantly pulling them in the opposite direction. Stress, the silent pressure that accumulates day after day, the invisible burden carried by modern minds. And according to many scientists, chronic stress may be one of the most destructive forces accelerating aging today. The world's longest-lived populations have not escaped stress. They have simply learned how to release it. And that may be the next great secret of the Blue Zones. Part 8. The deadliest silent killer of the 21st century. When most people think about the greatest threats to longevity, they imagine familiar enemies. Cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, high cholesterol. These conditions dominate headlines. They fill medical journals. They drive billions of dollars in healthcare spending. And yet, behind many of these diseases lurks a quieter force. A force that often receives far less attention than it deserves. A force so common that millions of people experience it every day without fully understanding its impact. Stress. Not occasional stress. Not the kind that appears before an important presentation or a difficult conversation. Chronic stress. The kind that never truly leaves. The kind that follows you from morning until night. The kind that becomes part of the background noise of life. For many people living in the modern world, stress has become so normal that it feels invisible. The constant pressure, the endless notifications, the financial worries, the deadlines, the uncertainty, the feeling that there's always something else that needs attention, something else that needs fixing, something else that needs to be done. The body was never designed for this. Human beings evolved to handle short bursts of danger. A predator appears, the body responds, the threat passes, recovery begins. For most of human history, stress came in waves. Today, many people live inside the wave, and that changes everything. To understand why, we need to meet one of the most powerful chemicals in the human body, cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone. That description is partly true, but cortisol itself is not the villain. In fact, cortisol is essential for survival. It helps regulate energy, supports alertness, assists the body during emergencies. Without cortisol, we would not function properly. The problem is not cortisol. The problem is constant cortisol. Imagine pressing the accelerator pedal in your car for a few seconds. No problem. Now imagine pressing it continuously for years. Eventually, something begins to wear down. The same principle applies to the human stress response. When stress becomes chronic, cortisol levels can remain elevated longer than intended. And over time, that may contribute to a wide range of health problems. Sleep disruption, increased blood pressure, metabolic dysfunction, immune system changes, mood disturbances, and perhaps most importantly for longevity, chronic inflammation. Inflammation is another word that appears frequently in health discussions. Most people know inflammation can occur after an injury. You cut your finger, the area becomes red, swollen, tender. That is a normal inflammatory response. It helps healing. But there is another form of inflammation, a quieter form, a slower form, a hidden form. Scientists sometimes refer to it as low-grade chronic inflammation. You cannot necessarily feel it. You may not even know it is happening. Yet researchers increasingly believe it plays a role in many age-related diseases, heart disease, neurodegenerative disorders, metabolic conditions, and numerous other chronic health challenges. Some scientists have even coined a term for age-related inflammation, inflammaging, inflammation plus aging, a process that may gradually accelerate biological wear and tear throughout the body. And one of the major drivers of this process appears to be chronic stress. Suddenly, stress is no longer just an emotional problem, it becomes a biological problem, a longevity problem, an aging problem. This realization led researchers studying blue zones to ask an important question. If chronic stress is so harmful, how do the world's longest-lived populations deal with it? After all, they are human too. They experience loss, conflict, financial difficulties, health challenges, uncertainty. Nobody escapes stress entirely. The difference is not the absence of stress. The difference is what happens afterward. Again and again, researchers observed something fascinating. Each blue zone had developed its own ritual for releasing stress, its own form of what researchers eventually called downshift, a deliberate transition out of the stress response, a daily reset, a built-in recovery system. Let's start with Okinawa. Many older Okinawans spend time remembering their ancestors, reflecting, praying, expressing gratitude, maintaining a connection with those who came before them. This practice creates moments of perspective, moments that pull attention away from daily worries. Now travel to Loma Linda. Members of the Seventh-day Adventist community often dedicate time to prayer, reflection, worship, and a weekly day of rest. For one day each week, the pace slows, work takes a back seat, family and faith move to the forefront. Imagine the effect of building a recurring pause into your life every 7 days, a protected space where productivity is not the priority, presence is. Then there is Ikaria, perhaps one of the most famous examples, the afternoon nap. To some people, a nap sounds unimportant, even indulgent, but researchers have long been fascinated by the potential health benefits of regular rest. The people of Ikaria often view rest not as a reward, not as laziness, but as part of a healthy rhythm, activity, recovery, a balance that many modern lifestyles have lost. Meanwhile, in Sardinia, social gatherings often provide their own form of stress relief. People meet, talk, laugh, share stories, spend time together. Simple moments. Yet those moments may carry enormous physiological benefits. Because laughter changes the body, connection changes the body, belonging changes the body. The nervous system responds to safety differently than it responds to threat, and social connection often signals safety. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you went an entire day without checking your phone every few minutes? Or spent 30 uninterrupted minutes without notifications? Without news? Without messages? Without demands for your attention? Many people cannot remember. And that fact alone tells us something important about the modern stress environment. The human brain evolved in villages. It now lives in an information storm. Every alert feels small, but thousands of alerts create a different reality. The mind rarely gets a chance to recover. That is why the blue zone concept of downshift is so powerful, because it acknowledges a simple truth. Stress is inevitable, recovery is optional, and many people are skipping the recovery. Think of professional athletes. No coach expects an athlete to train intensely every hour of every day. Recovery is considered essential. Without recovery, performance declines, injury risk increases, the body breaks down. Yet many people treat their minds differently. Work, more stimulation, more information, more worry, more noise, no recovery. Then they wonder why they feel exhausted. The blue zones remind us that recovery is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity. Now here is the encouraging part. You do not need to move to Okinawa or Ikaria to benefit from this wisdom. You can build your own downshift ritual, starting today. In fact, one of the most effective practices may require only 15 minutes. 15 minutes intentionally dedicated to recovery. No multitasking, no productivity goals, no pressure, just recovery. Imagine a simple daily ritual, the same time every day, perhaps after work, perhaps before bed, perhaps early in the morning. You sit quietly, take slow breaths, put the phone away, allow the nervous system to settle. You could meditate, you could pray, you could write in a gratitude journal, you could take a slow walk outdoors, you could listen to calming music, you could simply sit in silence. The activity itself matters less than the consistency, because what you are really creating is a signal telling the body, the threat has passed, you are safe, you can relax now, day after day, week after week, year after year. These small moments accumulate, just as chronic stress accumulates. Recovery accumulates too, and perhaps that is one of the greatest hidden lessons from the blue zones. Longevity is not simply about adding healthy habits. It is about removing chronic burdens, reducing unnecessary pressure, creating space for recovery, giving the body opportunities to heal. The people who live the longest are not necessarily those who avoid all stress. They are often the people who know how to release it, who know how to let it go, who know how to come back to the present moment, because a life filled with purpose is powerful. But purpose alone cannot protect us from chronic stress. Recovery must become part of the equation. And as researchers continued studying the world's longest-lived populations, they discovered another fascinating pattern. A pattern that appeared so consistently, it was almost impossible to ignore. Many of the people who lived beyond 100 belonged to something larger than themselves. A faith community, a spiritual tradition, a shared belief system, not because religion magically extends lifespan, but because belief may provide something every human being desperately needs: connection, meaning, and the feeling that we do not walk through life alone. That surprising discovery: a large percentage of centenarians maintain some form of spiritual or religious connection throughout their lives. At first glance, this observation creates an obvious question. Does religion help people live longer, or is something else happening? The answer is fascinating, because the science suggests that the most important factor may not be the specific belief itself. It may be everything that surrounds it: the community, the support, the meaning, the belonging, the human connection. To understand why, imagine two different people. The first person lives alone, rarely speaks to neighbors, rarely attends community gatherings, rarely feels connected to something larger than themselves. When difficulties arise, they face them mostly in isolation. Now imagine a second person. They regularly gather with others. They participate in shared traditions. They know people who care about them. People notice when they are absent. People check on them when they are struggling. People celebrate with them during good times and support them during difficult times. Which person is more likely to feel emotionally supported? The answer seems obvious, and that support may have profound consequences for long-term health. One of the greatest health challenges of the modern world is not always visible. It does not appear on medical scans. It cannot be measured with a thermometer. Yet researchers increasingly view it as a major threat to longevity. Loneliness. Not simply being alone, feeling alone. Those two experiences are not always the same. A person can live alone and feel deeply connected. A person can be surrounded by crowds and still feel profoundly isolated. Loneliness is not about physical distance. It is about emotional connection. And chronic loneliness appears to affect both the mind and the body. Studies have linked persistent social isolation to higher levels of stress, poorer mental health, increased inflammation, and elevated risk for a variety of health problems. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. Human beings evolved in tribes. For most of history, isolation was dangerous. Being separated from the group often reduced the chances of survival. Our brains still carry echoes of that ancient reality. Connection feels safe. Isolation often feels threatening. The nervous system responds accordingly. This is where faith communities become particularly interesting, because they often provide something that modern life increasingly struggles to deliver: belonging, a place where people know your name, a place where people recognize your absence, a place where relationships develop over years rather than minutes. Researchers studying blue zones repeatedly observed this phenomenon. Many centenarians participated in regular gatherings, church services, community rituals, prayer groups, religious celebrations, shared traditions. These activities created recurring opportunities for social connection, not once a year, not occasionally, consistently. The health benefits of such consistency may be substantial. Imagine experiencing a difficult period in life. Perhaps a loved one becomes ill. Perhaps you lose your job. Perhaps you experience grief. Who do you call? Who shows up? Who listens? Who helps? For many people in faith communities, there is already a network in place. People who offer practical support. People who offer emotional support. People who remind them they are not alone, and that support can change the experience of hardship. Psychologists often speak about resilience, the ability to recover from adversity, the ability to adapt, the ability to continue moving forward after setbacks. Resilience is not something people either possess or lack. It is influenced by environment, relationships, community, meaning. Faith communities often strengthen several of these factors simultaneously. They provide social bonds, shared values, a sense of continuity, a framework for understanding difficult experiences. Even for individuals who are not deeply religious, these elements can offer powerful psychological benefits. This may help explain why researchers repeatedly find connections between social participation and better health outcomes. Humans are not designed to navigate life completely alone. We are relational creatures. We need one another. In fact, one of the most remarkable findings from longevity research is that the quality of our relationships may influence health as much as many traditional risk factors. Think about that. Not just diet, not just exercise, relationships, the people around us, the people we trust, the people who stand beside us when life becomes difficult. Those connections appear again and again throughout the blue zones. Let me ask you something. If you suddenly faced a major challenge tomorrow, how many people could you call without hesitation? 1 person? 3? 10? Take a moment to think about it. And if someone comes to mind, consider how fortunate that connection truly is. Many people underestimate the value of having even one reliable person in their lives. Another reason faith communities may support longevity involves routine. Many Blue Zone residents follow recurring patterns throughout the week. Regular gatherings, regular reflection, regular social interaction, regular moments of gratitude. These habits create structure, and structure often reduces uncertainty. The human brain generally prefers predictability. When life feels chaotic, predictable rituals can create stability. Whether it is attending a service every week, sharing a meal after worship, participating in community activities, or simply spending time with familiar people. These routines become anchors that help individuals remain connected to others and to themselves. Now, it is important to clarify something. The Blue Zone lesson is not that everyone must adopt the same religion. That is not what researchers discovered. The lesson is much broader and much more universal, because when scientists looked beyond the specific beliefs, they found a common thread: community, meaning, connection, belonging. Those elements appeared regardless of denomination, regardless of culture, regardless of geography. The specific form varied. The underlying function remained remarkably similar. This is why some experts argue that the real question is not, what do you believe? The real question may be, who do you belong to? Do you have a community? Do you have people who care about you? Do you have people who notice when you disappear? Do you have people who celebrate your successes and support you through failures? Because those relationships may be among the most powerful health resources available. The modern world often encourages radical independence, self-sufficiency, doing everything alone, never needing help. Yet the Blue Zones reveal a different model, a model built on interdependence, people helping people, families supporting families, communities supporting individuals, individuals supporting communities. Not weakness, strength, collective strength. The oldest people in the world rarely reached old age alone. They arrived there surrounded by relationships, surrounded by familiar faces, surrounded by people who gave their lives context and meaning. And perhaps that is one reason they remained emotionally healthy for so long. Because meaning becomes easier to sustain when it is shared. Purpose becomes easier to sustain when it is supported. Resilience becomes easier to sustain when it is reinforced by others. As we move deeper into the Blue Zone story, another fascinating pattern begins to emerge. Many of these communities do not simply value connection through faith. They also place extraordinary importance on family. In many modern societies, aging often means becoming increasingly isolated from younger generations. But in the Blue Zones, something different happens. Grandparents remain central. Elders remain respected. Multiple generations remain connected. And that may unlock another powerful secret of longevity. Because few things influence the human sense of purpose more deeply than knowing that you still matter to the people you love. That story begins in the family. Part 10, the longevity experiment called Family-ga. Imagine reaching 90 years old. Now imagine what society expects from you. For many older adults in the modern world, the message is subtle but clear. Your most productive years are behind you. Your role is shrinking. Your influence is fading. Your time has passed. Whether spoken aloud or not, many elderly people eventually feel themselves being pushed toward the edges of society. Retirement, isolation, distance from younger generations, a growing sense that the world no longer needs them. But something very different happens inside the blue zones. Something so unusual that researchers noticed it immediately. The elderly are not removed from the game. They remain part of it. Not spectators, participants, not burdens, assets, not forgotten, respected. In fact, in many Blue Zone communities, older adults occupy one of the most important positions in society. They remain at the center of family life. And this may be one of the most powerful longevity secrets ever discovered. Because human beings do not simply need food. They do not simply need exercise. They do not simply need medicine. They need to feel useful. They need to feel needed. They need to feel that their existence still matters. Researchers traveling through Okinawa often encountered households where multiple generations lived together or within walking distance of one another. Grandparents, parents, children, sometimes even great-grandchildren. Daily life naturally flowed between generations. Advice was exchanged. Stories were shared. Responsibilities were distributed. No one was completely isolated. No one was expected to navigate life alone. In Sardinia, similar patterns appeared. Elderly family members remained deeply integrated into everyday life. Their opinions carried weight. Their experiences were valued. Their presence mattered. Imagine being 95 years old and still having people regularly ask for your guidance. Still having grandchildren eager to hear your stories. Still having family members depend on your wisdom. That changes the way you experience aging. Because aging is not only biological, it is psychological. The body ages, but the mind also responds to how society treats it. If the world constantly signals that you no longer matter, that message carries consequences. But if the world continues to reinforce your value, something very different happens. Purpose survives. Engagement survives. Motivation survives. And often, health benefits follow. One researcher described a striking scene in Okinawa. An elderly woman well past her 100th birthday was still actively participating in community events. She was not being cared for as a passive observer. She was contributing, helping, engaging, laughing, offering advice, living. The difference may seem subtle. It is not, because there's a profound psychological distinction between being cared for and being needed. Many people focus on the first. The blue zones reveal the importance of the second. Being cared for feels good. Being needed gives life meaning. And meaning, as we explored in the previous chapter, appears to be strongly connected to longevity. Now let's look at this relationship from another angle. What happens to children when grandparents remain actively involved? Researchers have studied this question extensively, and the answers are fascinating. Children who grow up with strong relationships across generations often gain access to something increasingly rare in modern society: time, patience, attention, stories, family history, emotional stability. Grandparents often serve as emotional anchors within a family system. While parents may be balancing careers, finances, and daily responsibilities, grandparents frequently provide continuity. Perspective, a longer view of life. They remind younger generations that difficult periods pass, that setbacks are survivable, that resilience can be learned. The result is a relationship that benefits both sides. Children gain wisdom, grandparents gain purpose. Everyone wins. Now consider the parents. Modern parenting can be exhausting. Many families feel overwhelmed by competing demands, work responsibilities, financial pressures, household tasks, educational concerns, social obligations. The presence of engaged grandparents often provides practical support, emotional support, and something equally important, a sense of shared responsibility. Raising a family becomes a collective effort rather than a solitary burden. Again, we see the same pattern that appears throughout the blue zones. Connection creates resilience. Isolation creates vulnerability. The strongest systems are rarely built around individuals. They are built around relationships. But perhaps the most dramatic effects occur among the elderly themselves. Let's talk about retirement for a moment. Retirement is often presented as the ultimate reward. Work hard for decades, then stop working. Relax, enjoy life. There is certainly value in freedom from stressful employment. Yet many researchers have noticed an unexpected phenomenon. Some people thrive after retirement, Others decline rapidly. Why? One important factor appears to be whether retirement removes purpose along with work. For many individuals, careers provide structure, identity, social interaction, responsibility, a reason to get up every morning. Remove those elements without replacing them, and life can suddenly feel empty. This is where family becomes incredibly important. In blue zones, retirement often does not mean becoming irrelevant. It simply means contributing in different ways, helping grandchildren, supporting neighbors, maintaining traditions, passing on knowledge, participating in family life. The role changes, the purpose remains. One centenarian in Sardinia was asked what he believed contributed most to his long life. His answer surprised many people. He did not mention diet, he did not mention exercise, he did not mention medicine. Instead, he spoke about family, about always being surrounded by people who needed him, people he cared about, people he wanted to help. Think about that for a moment. What if one of the greatest longevity interventions is not found in a laboratory? What if it is found around the dinner table? The human brain appears to respond strongly to usefulness. When people feel valued, motivation increases, engagement increases, emotional well-being often improves. Even physical activity may increase naturally because people have reasons to remain involved. This creates a fascinating cycle. Purpose encourages activity. Activity supports health. Health enables continued contribution. Continued contribution reinforces purpose. The cycle strengthens itself. The opposite cycle can also occur. Isolation reduces engagement. Reduced engagement decreases activity. Declining activity harms health. Poorer health increases isolation. The cycle weakens itself. Blue zone families appear remarkably effective at reinforcing the positive cycle, not because they are perfect. No family is perfect. Not because conflict never occurs. Conflict exists everywhere. But because the structure itself encourages connection. People remain visible to one another. People remain involved in one another's lives. People continue mattering. Let me ask you a question. Who is the oldest person who has significantly influenced your life? Perhaps a grandparent, a teacher, a neighbor, an aunt, an uncle, someone whose advice stayed with you long after the conversation ended. Think about that person for a moment. What made them memorable? Chances are it was not their age. It was their wisdom, their kindness, their presence, their willingness to invest in someone else. If someone comes to mind, share their story in the comments. Because every meaningful life leaves traces in the lives of others. One of the greatest misconceptions about aging is that value declines with age. The blue zones challenge that assumption completely. In many of these communities, age increases value. Not economic value, human value. Older adults become living libraries, living archives, living teachers, carriers of knowledge that cannot be downloaded from the internet, carriers of lessons learned through decades of experience. And when society treats them accordingly, everyone benefits. Children learn, parents gain support, grandparents maintain purpose, communities remain connected. The result is not merely longer life, it is richer life, life with continuity, life with meaning, life with relationships that span generations. And perhaps that is why family appears so frequently in the stories of centenarians. Not because family eliminates all problems, but because family often provides something essential for navigating those problems together. Yet there is another group of people whose influence may be just as powerful. A group many of us choose rather than inherit. Our friends, our social circles, our everyday companions. Because according to some of the most surprising research in human behavior, your friends may be influencing far more than your mood. They may be quietly shaping your habits, your health, your choices, and perhaps even your lifespan. That astonishing discovery leads us directly into the next chapter of the Blue Zone story. Part 11, the friends who are quietly deciding your lifespan. Imagine that someone could predict your future health without looking at your medical records, without checking your blood pressure, without analyzing your DNA, without examining your diet. Instead, they ask for something much simpler. They want to know who your closest friends are. At first, that sounds absurd. How could your friends influence your lifespan? How could the people you spend time with possibly affect how long you live? Yet one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern health research suggests exactly that. Your social circle may be shaping your future in ways you barely notice. Not through dramatic events, not through direct instructions, but through a quiet process that unfolds day after day, conversation after conversation, habit after habit. Researchers studying the blue zones encountered this phenomenon repeatedly. The world's longest-lived people rarely traveled through life alone. They belonged to tightly connected social groups, groups that provided support, accountability, encouragement, shared values, shared behaviors. In Okinawa, there is a special word for one of these groups, moai, a concept that may be one of the most powerful longevity tools ever discovered. Traditionally, a moai is a small group of friends who commit to supporting one another throughout life. Sometimes these friendships begin in childhood, sometimes in adolescence, sometimes through family connections. But once formed, the bonds can last for decades, even a lifetime. Members meet regularly, share experiences, help one another through difficult times, celebrate victories together, provide emotional support, provide practical support, and perhaps most importantly, they ensure that nobody faces life completely alone. Imagine having 4 or 5 people who genuinely care about your well-being. People who know your history, people who understand your struggles, people who notice when something is wrong, people who remain present during both good times and bad. Now imagine maintaining those relationships for 50 years, or 60 years, or 70 years. The impact becomes enormous. Researchers often describe social relationships as one of the strongest predictors of long-term health and happiness. The blue zones provide a living example of why, because the influence of friendship extends far beyond companionship. Friendship shapes behavior, and behavior shapes health. This is where things become truly fascinating. Scientists studying large social networks began noticing a strange pattern. Certain behaviors appeared to spread through communities, almost like a virus, not through germs, through influence. The phenomenon became known as social contagion. The idea is simple. Human beings constantly affect one another, often without realizing it. If people around you adopt certain habits, your chances of adopting those same habits increase. Not because anyone forces you, because human beings naturally imitate their environment. We absorb norms, we absorb expectations, we absorb behaviors, sometimes consciously, often unconsciously. One of the most famous examples emerged from the Framingham Heart Study. Researchers examining decades of social data noticed something surprising. Obesity appeared to spread through social networks. If a close friend became obese, an individual's likelihood of becoming obese also increased. Not because obesity is contagious in a biological sense, but because perceptions and behaviors changed. What seemed normal changed. What seemed acceptable changed. Eating habits changed. Activity levels changed. The environment changed. And people changed with it. Think about that for a moment. The people around you may influence your health even when they never mention health. Now let's go further. Researchers found evidence that happiness may spread through social networks as well. If a close friend becomes happier, your own probability of increased happiness may rise. Again, not because happiness magically transfers between people, but because emotions influence behavior. Optimism influences behavior. Perspective influences behavior. Human beings affect one another constantly. A smile spreads, laughter spreads, hope spreads, energy spreads. The blue zones seem to have understood this intuitively long before scientists began studying it. Their communities naturally surrounded people with others who reinforced healthy behaviors. People walked together, cooked together, shared meals together, spent time together, supported one another. The result was an environment where healthy living became normal, not exceptional, not forced, normal. Now let's examine the opposite side. Because unfortunately, not everything that spreads is positive. Loneliness spreads too. Researchers have observed that social isolation can influence entire networks. When people become disconnected, those around them may also become more disconnected. Relationships weaken. Participation decreases. Communities become less cohesive. A cycle begins. One person withdraws, then another, then another. Over time, loneliness becomes self-reinforcing. The same appears true for anxiety. Anyone who has spent significant time around chronically anxious individuals understands this intuitively. Emotions are contagious. Fear spreads, worry spreads, pessimism spreads, stress spreads. Not perfectly, not inevitably, but influence exists and influence accumulates. This realization leads to an uncomfortable question. Who are you becoming because of the people around you? That question deserves serious reflection, because most people choose their diets more carefully than they choose their social environments. Yet social environments may be just as important, perhaps more important. Imagine spending years surrounded by people who constantly complain, constantly criticize, constantly expect the worst, constantly engage in unhealthy habits. Over time, maintaining a different mindset becomes difficult. Now imagine the opposite. People who prioritize health, people who encourage growth, people who support your goals, people who genuinely want the best for you. The difference can be life-changing. Let me ask you something. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Not who you admire, not who you follow online. The actual people who occupy the most space in your daily life. Think carefully. How do you feel after spending time with them? More energized or more exhausted? More hopeful or more discouraged? More motivated or more distracted? If you are comfortable sharing, tell us in the comments, because this question may reveal more about your future than you realize. One reason Moai groups are so powerful is that they create positive accountability, not the harsh accountability often associated with discipline. A gentler form, a human form. If you disappear, people notice. If you struggle, people help. If you succeed, people celebrate. This kind of support reduces the burden of carrying life alone. And carrying life alone is exhausting. The people of Okinawa built systems that naturally prevented isolation. Friendships were not treated as optional luxuries. They were treated as essential parts of life. Modern society often does the opposite. Friendships are squeezed between obligations. Work comes first, tasks come first, schedules come first. Connection becomes secondary. Yet the blue zones suggest that friendship may not be secondary at all. It may be foundational. Because humans are social creatures. Our nervous systems evolved inside communities. Our emotions evolved inside communities. Even our habits evolve inside communities. The people around us become mirrors. And over time, we often begin reflecting what we see. This is why the final lesson of social contagion is so powerful. You do not merely eat like your friends. You gradually become more like your friends. You adopt their language, their priorities, their expectations, their routines, their emotional patterns, their view of the world. Not completely, but significantly. Enough to matter. Enough to influence health. Enough to influence happiness. Enough to influence longevity. The Blue Zones understood this long before social science gave it a name. They built communities that made healthy living easier, friendships that reinforced positive behavior, relationships that encouraged resilience, and those relationships became part of the longevity equation. As we approach the final chapter of this journey, all of these discoveries begin to connect. Movement, food, purpose, stress management, faith, family, friendship. Each piece matters, but there is one final insight that ties everything together, a surprising truth that may completely change the way we think about longevity. Because after decades of studying the world's longest-lived people, researchers discovered something unexpected. The people who live the longest are often not trying to live the longest, and that may be the greatest secret of all. Part 12, the final secret of people who live to 100 brand. We have traveled across mountains in Sardinia, walked through villages in Okinawa, visited the sunlit peninsula of Nicoya, sat beneath the skies of Ikaria, and stepped inside the close-knit community of Loma Linda. Along the way, we discovered extraordinary people, people who regularly reach 100 years of age, people who remain active, independent, and mentally sharp far longer than most of the world expects. And now we arrive at the final question. What is the ultimate secret? What is the single lesson hidden beneath everything we have explored? At first, the answer seems obvious. Perhaps it is diet. Perhaps it is exercise. Perhaps it is stress reduction. Perhaps it is genetics. Perhaps it is community. But the deeper researchers looked, the more surprising the answer became, because the longest-lived people in the world rarely focus on longevity itself. Let that sink in for a moment. They are not obsessed with living longer. They are obsessed with living. That may sound like a small distinction. In reality, it changes everything. Before we uncover the final twist, let's take one last look at the remarkable framework researchers call the Power Nine. The 9 lifestyle patterns shared across the blue zones. The 9 principles that appear again and again wherever exceptional longevity is found. The first is move naturally. Not extreme workouts, not punishing exercise programs, simply building movement into daily life. Walking, gardening, climbing hills, using the body as it was designed to be used. The second is purpose. Ikigai, plan de vida, a reason to wake up each morning, a reason to keep moving forward, a reason to stay engaged with life. The third is downshift, a daily ritual that allows stress to leave the body. A moment to breathe, reflect, pray, rest, recover. The fourth is the 80% rule, stopping before fullness, eating until hunger disappears rather than until discomfort begins, respecting the body's signals. The fifth is plant slant, a diet centered primarily on plants, beans, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, simple foods that nourish both the body and the gut microbiome. The sixth is wine at 5, not necessarily alcohol itself, but the ritual of slowing down, sharing meals, laughing with friends, creating moments of connection. The seventh is belong, being part of a faith community or shared belief system, having something larger than yourself, something that provides meaning, support, and belonging. The eighth is loved ones first, keeping family close, protecting relationships, investing time and energy into the people who matter most. The ninth is right tribe, surrounding yourself with people whose habits support health, people who encourage growth, people who help you become your best self. 9 principles. Simple, practical, timeless. And yet something fascinating emerges when you look at them together. Most of them are not health interventions, at least not in the way modern society usually thinks about health. Very few involve medical technology, very few involve expensive treatments, very few involve optimization. Instead, they describe something else, a way of living, a way of organizing daily life, a way of being human. And that realization brings us to the final secret. When researchers spent time with centenarians, they noticed something curious. These people were not constantly talking about lifespan. They were not calculating every calorie. They were not chasing immortality. They were not trying to hack every biological pathway. Most of them had never heard terms like biohacking, longevity optimization, anti-aging protocols, cellular rejuvenation. Many simply lived according to the traditions of their communities. They woke up, worked, moved, shared meals, spent time with family, spent time with friends, contributed to their communities, went to sleep, then repeated the process the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. For decades. The modern world often approaches longevity as a problem to solve, a battle to win, an enemy to defeat, a number to maximize. But the blue zones suggest a different perspective. Perhaps longevity is not a target. Perhaps it is a byproduct, a consequence, an outcome that emerges naturally when certain conditions are present. Imagine 2 people. The first spends every day worrying about living longer, tracking every health metric, obsessing over every food choice, constantly anxious about aging, constantly fearful of death. The second spends every day building a meaningful life, maintaining relationships, finding purpose, moving naturally, laughing often, contributing to others, managing stress. Who is more likely to experience joy? Who is more likely to experience peace? Who is more likely to create the conditions that support long-term health? The answer becomes increasingly obvious. The paradox is that the people who live the longest often seem the least preoccupied with longevity itself. They are focused on living well, and living well appears to create longevity. Not perfectly, not guaranteed, but consistently enough to attract the attention of scientists around the world. Perhaps one of the greatest mistakes modern culture makes is separating health from life. Treating health as something that exists outside ordinary living, something achieved through extraordinary effort. The blue zones teach the opposite lesson. Health emerges from ordinary living, from the way we structure our days, the people we spend time with, the food we share, the purpose we cultivate, the stress we release, the communities we build, the relationships we protect. And perhaps that is why these lessons continue to resonate with so many people, because they are accessible. You do not need to be wealthy. You do not need cutting-edge technology. You do not need a private medical team. You do not need futuristic treatments. You can begin today with one walk, one meal, one conversation, one act of gratitude, one meaningful connection, one small change repeated consistently. And perhaps that is exactly how the centenarians reached 100. Not through dramatic transformations, but through thousands of ordinary days lived well. Now imagine one final scene, a narrow village road, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the ground, a gentle breeze moving through the trees, and an old man walking slowly down that road. He is 100 years old. His steps are measured, unhurried, steady. His face carries the marks of time, the wrinkles of a century, the evidence of joy, loss, love, work, friendship, family, life. He is not famous. The world does not know his name. He never became a celebrity. He never built a billion-dollar company. He does not own futuristic technology. He is not chasing eternal youth. And yet he possesses something many modern people desperately seek: a meaningful life. People who love him. People he loves. A community that knows him. A purpose that guided him. Memories worth carrying. Stories worth telling. Reasons to smile. Reasons to wake up tomorrow. Perhaps that is what the Blue Zones have been trying to teach us all along. The goal is not merely to add years to life. The goal is to add life to years, because eventually every human being asks the same question: what makes a life well lived? The centenarians of the Blue Zones seem to answer with remarkable simplicity: move, connect, belong, contribute, rest, laugh, eat simply, live with purpose, and let longevity take care of itself. Before we finish, I would love to hear from you. Out of all the Blue Zone principles we explored in this documentary, which one speaks to you the most? Which habit do you want to bring into your own life starting today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through the secrets of the world's longest-lived people, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who would appreciate these lessons. Your support helps this channel continue creating thoughtful science and health documentaries like this one. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of the people around you, and remember, a long life is wonderful, but a meaningful life may be the greatest achievement of all. Until next time.